Hey, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with another video covering the Steam's fall sale. A ton of great deals are available, and a lot of you guys had commented asking me to take a look at RPGs, and I'm gonna do you one better. We're gonna specifically be looking at RPGs under the price of $10. A lot of these are considerably under $10, while some of these fall at that $9.99 range. But I want to go through these games as fast as possible, so let's just get right into it. And we'll start things off with South Park: The Stick of Truth, which is 75% off for $7.49. Now, South Park: The Stick of Truth was one of my most surprisingly great games that I had ever played. Going into the release of South Park, I had heard that they were making a South Park RPG with traditional RPG mechanics and the fun of South Park. I was like, man, how is that gonna turn out? But Obsidian Entertainment did a tremendous job with the game. It really embodied that humor of South Park, and being somebody that isn't a big fan of South Park, I mean, I've watched an episode or two, but I found this game absolutely hilarious, and mechanically, it was a well-developed RPG. Obsidian did a great job with it, and of course there is a sequel in South Park: The Fractured But Whole. It's mostly agreed that that game isn't as good as the first, but it's still worthwhile to check out that game as well. There is a bundle available with both for $20.23, but if you've never played either, the first game for $7.49 is a great deal. Next up, we have the Banner Saga, 75% off for $6.24. The Banner Saga is a trilogy of games. I'm recommending the first one because you really should start with the first game, but it's also a series of games that I thought have gone completely underrated. It's a historical Viking-themed RPG, a turn-based strategy RPG with some great visuals, great presentation, a solid story, and it's a game that I really thought would resonate more with gamers than it has. I mean, the people that have played it have liked it, but it really hasn't gotten that mainstream appeal that I thought a series like the Banner Saga would get. Right now, the first game is 75% off for $6.24. I think that's a pretty good deal if you can convince a couple of friends to pick it up as well. They got a 4-pack available. That's $18.74, so I believe that's the price of 3 copies, but you're getting 4 copies of the game, so you can save a little bit going that way. They also have the Banner Saga trilogy. If you want the entire trilogy, that is quite pricey though, so at the very least, I would recommend you to get started with the first game. Next up, we have probably what many would consider to be an essential game to own on PC, and that is Fallout New Vegas, and I would recommend the Ultimate Edition. That is 50% off for $9.99. This includes Fallout New Vegas and all of the expansions with Dead Money, Honest Hearts, Old World Blues, Lonesome Road, Gunrunners, Arsenal, and Courier Stash. The latter two not being full-on expansions, but to get all of that content for just $9.99, that is awesome. And Fallout New Vegas is so well received on PC with the modding community. There's so much longevity attached to this game. I should note that Fallout 3 Game of the Year Edition is also on sale. That's a great deal as well, same price as the Ultimate Edition. However, Fallout 3 does have some issues on PC, easy to work around them, but it's easy to see why New Vegas is the more well received of the two. You could also get the base game for just $3.29. I would just get the Ultimate Edition to get all of that extra content, but hey, if you want to go a little cheaper, $3.29 for the base game is still going to offer you a ton of content when you throw in the mods. Next up, we have Borderlands 2 Game of the Year Edition. This is a game that I often recommend, and the Game of the Year Edition includes the base game as well as a ton of DLC content, and we talked about longevity with Fallout New Vegas. Borderlands 2 is another game with so much longevity. It's a lengthy game with a lot of content. However, I always find it enjoyable to go back and play through this game multiple times, whether it be with different characters, and I've always been one to say that Borderlands 2, yes, while it has an emphasis on cooperative play, I find it thoroughly enjoyable going through it solo, but maybe I'm in the minority with that thinking. On PC as well, this game looks fantastic. Back in 2012 when it was originally released, this was one of the go-to games when people were testing out GPUs. Of course, at this point, 6 years later, doesn't hold up quite as well as it initially did, but still a really good looking game, and at this point, very, very easy to run. Next up, we have Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition, 75% off for $9.99. Already recommended Original Sin 2, however, that is like $29 and change. If you want the cheaper option, yes, the first game isn't as good as the second game, but it's coming at you for just $9.99, so much cheaper. And there's still a lot of investment to be had in this game. It's still a very well fleshed out RPG. This is the one that I played first, and me enjoying it so much, it's kind of funny that it took me so long to check out Original Sin 2. Of course, that is the far superior game, but if you have any inclination to play the first title, if you do play the second title, going back and playing the first title might be a little difficult. So starting off with the first game might actually be the best route to go, and $9.99 isn't a bad pickup for that either. Next up, we have Dragon's Dogma Dark Arisen, 70% off for $8.99. Dragon's Dogma was an RPG originally released on the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, no PC version. I believe it originally came out all the way back in 2013, and then we randomly got a PC version in early 2016, and Capcom nailed the port with this game. They nailed the pricing, they priced it at $29.99, and it just ran very well on PC. And bear in mind that Dragon's Dogma, one of the major complaints of that game on last-gen platforms was from a technical standpoint. Of course, on PC, the shackles completely come off, and you're really getting the best Dragon's Dogma experience possible. The game itself, a lot of people will compare it to Dark Souls, and it is a very challenging game, but it's also set in an open world. There's a lot of customization options, so $9 for that is quite good. Would like to see it a little bit cheaper at this point, but that's just me being a penny pincher. That is a great deal as well. Next up is a game that I always like to recommend, and it's a game in a series we might see make a comeback, and that is Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. I would recommend the collection, which is 75% off for $9.99. Alternatively, the base game is just $4.99, so you could just get that, and honestly, you don't save a ton of money buying the collection, you just save $1.22. So the base game might actually be the route to go if you're looking to save a little bit of money. It seems like whenever I mention Kingdoms of Amalur, I hear a couple of people come out of the woodworks in the comments saying, thank you so much for mentioning Kingdoms of Amalur, and that's because it's a tremendous open world RPG. Now, from a storytelling standpoint, I don't think it's anything to write home about. However, where Kingdoms of Amalur really shines is from a gameplay standpoint. It features fast-paced, action-oriented combat, something similar to, say, Devil May Cry, and that's very rare in an open world RPG, where the combat is super stylish, super fast-paced, and that's what you get out of Kingdoms of Amalur. I did say this game could make a comeback, and that's because THQ Nordic just acquired the rights to the game, so I imagine we'll see a remastered version at some point. Hopefully, best case scenario is I would love to see a sequel to this game, because this is just one of the unsung great games of the last 10 years or so, and I would highly recommend it at this price. Again, base game's only $4.99, and if you want some additional content, the collection for $9.99 isn't bad either. Next up, want to give a shout to Torchlight 2, 80% off for $3.99, considering there is so much negative criticism surrounding Diablo. Yes, I would say Diablo 3 is quite good, but if you want a Diablo-like experience at a much cheaper price, Torchlight 2 is 80% off for just $3.99, and this is a really good dungeon-crawling action RPG. Now, Torchlight is also making a comeback with Torchlight Frontier. That game's been getting a little bit of a mixed reception as well, but Torchlight 2 is great, released all the way back in 2012, so from a technical standpoint, really doesn't hold up that well. But given the fact it's only $4, and for those of you that want a quality dungeon-crawling action RPG, you're probably not all too concerned about great visuals. If you are, you should probably just check out Lost Ark or something, but Torchlight 2 is great, and at this price, well worth it. Next up is one of my favorite RPG franchises that has kind of gotten to the wayside after the most recent release. Mass Effect The Collection is 75% off for $8.74. This includes Mass Effect as well as Mass Effect 2 Digital Deluxe Edition. Guys, I cannot say enough good things about Mass Effect 2. That game is still up there with my favorite RPGs of all time. In terms of my personal top RPG list, I would say it's Witcher 3 and then Mass Effect 2 probably trailing right behind it. And Mass Effect 2, I gotta go back and play through it again, but I just remember having such a great time with that game. And that game is just so well made. So how about the first game? Well, the first game from a gameplay standpoint isn't as good as Mass Effect 2. It is definitely gonna have some dated mechanics, but the storytelling is still quite good. And I would still say there's reason to go back and play the first Mass Effect. I played it a couple of years ago, and I played it from start to finish and still had a pretty good time with it. And considering the collection is $8.74, and while that game did have some criticism mainly towards its ending and some storytelling aspects, I found that game quite good as well, so I would recommend that after you played through these two. And lastly, I do want to give a shout to the Deus Ex games, namely Deus Ex Human Revolution Director's Cut is 85% off for $2.99. That is such an insane price for Human Revolution, which is a fantastic RPG. Really brought the Deus Ex franchise to a modern audience, and a lot of people really enjoyed that. Deus Ex Mankind Divided is also on sale, 85% off for $4.49. That game, not as well received, had some technical issues on PC at launch, and even from a fundamental standpoint, the game itself isn't as good as Human Revolution. Really had some faults from a storytelling standpoint. Overall, I would still say there's some stuff to like about the game, and for $4.49, I would say it's worth a buy. But if you've never played Deus Ex, I think Human Revolution is the game to start out with. The older titles in the first Deus Ex game and Invisible War, those games are just gonna have a much steeper learning curve. Visually, of course, they're not gonna be as appealing, so I would stick to Human Revolution. If you do have more of a hardcore kick, go ahead and check out the first game. That's available for just 97 cents, so just go and sell some Steam trading cards and you can get that game. Invisible War is also 97 cents. Would recommend the first first game over Invisible War, but that's just my opinion. The entire collection is available for $10.60. That includes Deus Ex Game of the Year Edition, Invisible War, Deus Ex The Fall, which is absolutely atrocious, Deus Ex Human Revolution, and Mankind Divided, as well as some DLC content for Mankind Divided. And that's gonna conclude this video. We got through it pretty quickly, but I thought I was able to give you some quick insight on some of the best RPGs available very cheap as a part of the Steam Fall Sale. If you guys would like to see me cover anything else, let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.